spend disciplines. And so the thought process behind that was that if you're going to do this right and you want to serve a lot of clients, then that was a good way to do it. So that's kind of how I built my business. I've been a business consultant for 30-some years. Converted 3 years ago into the cost recovery business because people didn't want to pay up front, and the 50-50 model of splitting success was a lot more productive and a lot more profitable for both me and my clients as well. So are we good to go, Diane?
Yeah, we're good to go. The slides are up on the screen, so just let me know when you want me to go through the next slide.
Okay, so recently I participated in a customer experience survey, and the survey was sent to 10,000 different businesses, from entrepreneurs all the way up to Fortune 500 companies, and the results were kind of pretty remarkable. Next slide. 90% of the companies responded that the customer experience is the most important reason that customers begin a relationship and then continue to do business with them. That said, 14% of those have implemented programs to ensure that there's a great customer experience. Anybody who shopped at Amazon or Zappos or companies like that understand really what the customer experience is from an online basis. In addition to that, there are also companies out there that are trying to create that experience from a service basis. Not too many of them have been very successful yet, but they're using the Zappos and the Amazon method of customer experience to be successful going forward. 86% of those said they don't have anything planned for implementation either currently or in 2016. So it's amazing that people realize that the customer experience is the most important reason the customers do business with them and begin a relationship, yet 86% of them aren't doing anything about it. Next slide. So the lasting impression is your personal brand. Trust me. You can trust me, right? Next slide. Perception is really more important than reality, because what we all think we're doing and what we're perceived as doing can be two different things. Next slide. So your personal brand is not only influencing your current customer experience, it's having people choose to do business with you or not. Ian Percy said, we just judge others by their behavior. We judge ourselves by our intentions. So keep in mind, it's looking in that mirror effect. And how would your clients describe you? This guy or gal is all about what? What are they about? Next slide. So we meet a lot of people. It's hard to measure exactly how many people we meet, but it's basically concluded that on average we meet about 3 new people a day. That's 1,095 people over a year and over 80,000 people in your lifetime. And even if that estimate is high, we meet and introduce ourselves to a lot of people. Next slide. And why is this important? Because it's the way that we introduce ourselves at dinner parties, at meetings, at conferences, on elevators. We also have websites for ourselves and our businesses. Yet even when we give them the chance very often to introduce ourselves, and someone says, so what do you do? Most of us answer that question, we reply that's either too long, uninteresting, or timid, or just not able to be understood. So the first interaction with people is our most important interaction, and it's the best way to impress them and intrigue them, yet most of us blow it. Next. So what if you had a stronger intro? What if instead of thinking up an introduction every time you were asked what you do, you had a succinct, interesting, consistent, and confident answer? What if succinctness and specificity of your reply allowed you to answer simply and confidently? What if the reply let other person quickly ask a follow-up question, allow them to direct the conversation? So there's a base formula for this. The base formula is 6 words, and it has 4 parts. I, you're the one introducing yourself, or it could be we. Help, what, or some form of help. Your clients or customers, whoever it is you help, and then achieve some sort of a result. What do you help them do or achieve? Next. So one of my buddies, Joey Coleman, says, I help companies keep their customers. He's in the brand management business. And then Clay Hebert says, I help entrepreneurs fund their dreams. He's got different solutions that he's got that he puts together to help people grow their business. Did you miss a slide? Go back up one. Okay, I'm sorry. Next. So the rules: don't use any buzzwords. Use as few words as possible. Aim for intrigue over information. You're not trying to explain everything you do, just a quick way. You don't want to bore anybody, and you want to intrigue them by saying something interesting so they want to know more. Next. You'll be tempted to use trendy buzzwords or industry terms, but don't. Don't use words like implement, methodology, best practices, integration. Speak like a human. Don't use words that you wouldn't say in a normal conversation or with a friend over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. Don't use any words you wouldn't say to a 10-year-old. Next slide. Use as few words as possible. There's nothing magical about exactly 6 words. 6 words is a guideline. It's not a hard, fast rule. Just remove any extraneous words and get it as short as possible. Shorter words or words with fewer symbols are better than longer words if you end up with any 4-syllable words. See if you can simplify it or just use a shorter word. Next. I can become we. Sometimes when you're introducing yourself, you're representing your company or a group or a community. In this case, you can change the I to we or refer to your team. This also works well on company websites. Many company websites headers start with the words, we help. Next. So what is your 6-word intro versus the old 30-second elevator pitch? I help clients reduce expenses paid. My old pitch used to be, our clients come to us when they're looking for solutions to improve their cash flow or fund an opportunity that do not have available assets. Or our clients come to us when they're looking to increase profits by reducing expenses and recovering monies that they previously spent. Next. So we go through the process of what's called the 3 I's. Issue, impact, and importance. What is the issue to the business that's going to have the best impact and the most importance? And from that, you can then determine which market opportunities exist and then what the solutions are that can be implemented for those opportunities. Next. Simply put, this is kind of what our graph looks like. This is their current situation, and then post-office where we're increasing the profits and reducing their expenses. So this is actually a shot of my website. Yeah, I actually had a link here, but that's not going to work now. But you see in the bottom part, it says, who are we not a good fit for at ETB? Basically, on my website, I address clients I don't think I can help or I don't want to do business with. So if anybody, and you can go to my website, and anybody sees that, they're going to look there and say, well, either one of those 7 criteria don't apply to them or it does apply to them. If it doesn't apply to them, then we can do business. If it does apply to them, then I really don't have much interest in getting involved. And they're really pretty simple things, and it's more a interactive approach. In today's world, the new theory is be upfront about who's not a good fit for your business. Next. So here are some statements or questions that you can ask people. As I alluded to last week when we were talking, some of these are repetition, but when you're having a conversation with people about how you can help them, these are some of the things that I'll ask people. Sometimes I'll ask them if they compare their business to their competition. Do you think your expenses are similar to theirs? And sometimes you can get some pretty surprising answers. My most famous one is, what bill that you pay annoys you the most? That's going to be the one that shouts out, that's going to give you a pretty good indication of something that they want to take a look at from a cost reduction or cost recovery standpoint. If you could, what's the same similar thing, if you could reduce one expense, which would it be? Very similar, but the first one is one that's a hot point because it annoys them. Anyhow, so these are just some some different statements that I make sure people know, that we don't try to change their vendors in what we do, but we are trying to find them better solutions with their vendors, providing them the same amount of quality and the same level, if not better levels of service. Next. So some of the services that are being expanded, this is one of them. This is the comprehensive parcel audit recovery system. It's really pretty simple. You get from the client their log on to FedEx or UPS. We then identify any credits to the carriers. It's automatically money that gets put back into the client account. So whatever they were charged, they're either reimbursed or they're given a credit for it to their account. There's a monthly report that comes out, and then a bill that goes out to the client. It's really pretty simple. It's kind of like printing money. There's about $2 billion a year in packages that are not delivered on a timely basis by UPS and FedEx. And that's not just packages that are due at 8:30 or 10:30 or noon. Every package that they deliver has a delivery timeline. It may be, midday business. It could be end of day business. 61 seconds after that package is supposed to be delivered, it's considered late, and your client is entitled to a full refund for that package sent. So this is a great, easy way to, if you're beginning in this business, if you have clients that send a lot of FedEx and UPS packages, this is a great way to get them on board with some cost reduction. In addition to that, what's really nice about this service is it also shows all the things like weather and custom delay notices, if you got people that ship overseas. It's got exception report. It's got an address correction report, because when you send a package and it's got a wrong address, UPS or FedEx will charge you back $25 to get that delivered to the right place. And so this service also provides the exception report where the client can drill down and then correct in their system so they've got the right address going forward. Next. Another one of the ones that we use that's very successful is with another one of our partners, Treasury Management Advisors. Treasury Management Advisors are guys that have been in the banking business for 20 to 25 years with all your major bank players plus regional banks, and they look at where a client is spending money, and they've got, basically you can see here that there's 4 different columns. You've got a large corp, a mid-corp, and a TMA client. So in this case, this is the actual client itself of what the projected savings should be. And of course, we split directly with them for the recoveries. And so basically what they do is they provide all the ammunition that your client is going to need to go back and talk to their banker. This is not something that we get involved in directly. The client typically has the relationship with the banker, and the bank is typically going to come back the first 1 or 2 times and not agree to the full amount that we find that they should be reimbursing the client for. But that said, typically what it'll do is it'll take a period of time where you can get all those fees adjusted back. But it's a relationship between the business itself and Treasury Management Advisors will provide all the data and language that the CFO or the business owner needs to have a conversation with their banker to get the reductions that they need. This is an actual client of mine. We've been very successful, helping them negotiate directly with the bank. In addition, we also help them with negotiations on their credit lines as well. Next slide. So I always have a list of the most common expenses where savings can be found. So this is kind of one that I have on my marketing information. So you can see it's a pretty global list where we put things together. So these are, like I said, real easy things. Most businesses are dealing with banks. They've got typically a real estate lease. They've got equipment leases in most cases. A lot of people lease telephone equipment or copiers or other digital equipment, and we find a lot of times that leases continue to go on if people don't tell them that they want to stop paying, because the lease language, even though it says it's got a term to it, it also says you have to notify us with what you want to do with the equipment, or they just continue to bill you. We've had a lot of success, as Terry has talked about in the past, with utilities and energy reductions. I just had a client today who I did a nice savings, about $186,000 savings on a $1 million spend in energy They own a 1 million square foot building. And we also found out today that the energy company, their prior energy company, overcharged them by about $180,000. So now we're working on a recovery of money that they've already spent and paid to the utility of $180,000. And in addition, we're able to reduce their bills going forward by about that same amount. Next. So the other thing too that you all should make sure that you have is, no matter what you're using to send out email, is you need to have a appropriate email signature block. And one of the things I always do is I BCC myself every email that I send out. So I've got a file system by client or by prospect or by service provider where I drop that email into, so I can keep track of all my communications. And make sure when you're sending an email out that you always address people by their first name, because when you address somebody by their first name, assuming you can, it's more personable. And I always end with best regards. I don't put in I used to have a signature block, but you know, with my actual signature scanned and in there, but it takes up a lot more space, and sometimes it doesn't really convey real well when you send that to different people. So it just has your basic contact information, but I also have a link that says, see at the bottom where it says online appointment scheduler. I use a service called vCita. It costs like $18 a month, and you can see it from my website where it says contact me, and you can contact me one of 3 ways. You can send me an email, you can schedule time for a phone call, or you can schedule time for an in-office meeting. And it allows me to block out my calendar so that so I can schedule things appropriately. If someone schedules a meeting, it'll block out time on either side of that. If it's a phone call, it may block out 20 minutes on either side. If it's an actual physical meeting, it'll block out an hour on either side, so nobody can actually get things double booked, so I don't have a problem getting from one meeting to the next. I think that may be it. So a lot of information, just kind of some sales type stuff that some, you know, basic general, you know, customer service information, some thoughts about, you know, how do you set up, you know, what do you say and what do you do when you meet someone, and these things I think are helpful in our business, because I call this the hardest easy sell in the world. You would think it's a no-brainer. You're going to come in and you're going to, at no cost, look at how people are spending money, and you're going to give them a report that basically either tells them that they've done a great job and there's no savings and it didn't cost them anything, or you're going to show them the opportunity of how you can help them save money and then split the success with them.
Terry, do you have anything to say at the end of this, or does anyone have any questions?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So let me just preface for some of the new people on the call, and some of you know, we've added a new bucket. We're adding a whole line of cost containment services. We're going to roll out a brand called Expense Check. And you'll see some of the stuff as it comes out. So Marc's light years ahead of most people in this cost containment space. So he's going to be part of our faculty, our tech team. So you'll be able to work with him on some services. So we are moving quickly on this. We're putting together some new relationships. Marc's been opening up some resources on his end, and put us directly in contact with some really, some really cool back-end providers that will be white labeling some of the stuff for us. More to come on all this stuff. So we're going to be inviting some of these other folks. Marc obviously is a part of this, and then we have some other folks that will be coming on, and you'll be meeting the actual owners of some of these companies that Marc, been partnering with and bringing some of these relationships inside the core. So maybe Mark, talk a little bit about, again, it always goes back to, opening this thing up. So we don't want to sound like, hey, we're the jack of all trades, master of none, right? We don't want that. We don't want to be. I think there's definitely a very simple way to open up the conversation. I think you set the right expectations up front of what we can do, and trying to find the hot buttons and then go from there. But maybe turn it a little bit on how you open up the conversation. What are some, I love how you.
Terry, you're sounding a little muffled.
Opening conversations. I mean, in today's. What?
You're sounding a little muffled, like you're going away from your.
Hello?
You're sounding a little muffled on your end.
Oh, okay. How am I sounding now?
Much better.
Gotcha now.
I think I was a little too close to the mic. Sorry about that. So as we kind of go into the opening up of the conversation, that's what I was saying. Maybe get into a little bit on how you position all these services where it's not overwhelming for the client, especially if you're on the phone. Maybe you haven't got a great relationship with the client yet. You're trying to get in front of them, because every business needs savings. Every business wants to improve cash flow. I mean, that's just a given. But getting in there and getting some of their time is a skill, and that's what everybody, in my opinion, is so important, because if you're still struggling with that, you're going to struggle getting in front of people to expose the business. I think once you're in front of the business owner, you're going to walk away with something. There's always something. There's going to be an opportunity to help them out with. So maybe talk a little bit about that, Mark, on how you open up new relationships, how you get people excited to meet with you. Why do they want to meet with you? Take us through that process.
Sure. So most of my, I don't do any real cold calling. Most of my calls are all pretty warm, or sometimes even hot, because I have built a pretty good network of professionals that refer me business. Plus, I've been in in this area for over 30 years. So I know quite a few people in a lot of different areas, and it's just amazing sometimes where you're having a conversation where I was basically in my synagogue, and I talking to a guy after services one day, and he asked me a question. He said, "Hey, you do stuff like this, right?" And he asked me a question about, this was before October 1st, with the new readers for the credit card machines, these chip readers. And he was like, "Oh, I'm getting this kind of information, that kind of information, and this." I said, "Well, why don't you, when you get back to your office, send me, a copy of your last statement, and I'll take a look at what you're doing, and I'll look and see if there's an opportunity where we can be helpful." And I looked at what he was doing, and of course you always get the bank tells me they're giving me the best rate, and that kind of always makes me kind of chuckle, because I hear that so many times. It's just very rarely true. In his case, they actually were giving him a really fantastic rate, but where they were killing him was on the transaction fees. And so when you look at different spend categories, whether it's credit cards, or whether it's equipment leases, or whether it's a real estate lease, most of the agreements that they have specify what they can charge, how much they can charge, and when those charges can be changed. And so, our job as auditors is trying to educate potential clients that we are part of a network of specialists, and each spend specialist, has a lot of knowledge in their category. And that's how you get around the question that you asked, Terry, about being kind of like is it a jack of all trades and a master of none? You basically hold yourself out as a consultant, but that you're part of a network of category spend specialists that have 20 to 25 to 30 years experience in that spend category, and they have information, and they have data, and they have audits. The bottom line is, of the successes that you've had on the cost seg side, Terry, about the hundreds of millions of dollars that you have recovered for clients. that's a pretty strong statement. And you can go out and basically very confidently say that you're part of a group of guys that have done over 20,000 audits, because through the network we've all done, if everybody adds up all their audits that they've done over 20,000 audits in many different spend categories and saved over hundreds of millions of dollars and recovered over hundreds of millions of dollars for our clients. And so that's part of the pitch going forward. And, I basically started off, like I said, with the new 6-word intro, which is I help clients reduce expenses paid, period. And I shut up and I wait for them to say, well, what do you mean by that? Or what? And then I come back with so if there was one thing that you spend a lot of money on, which one annoys you the most? And that's your opening right there. I mean, that's it. They're going to tell you what annoys them the most. And then your next question is, so you spend all this money on whatever it is, banking fees, or you spend all this money on credit card fees, or you spend all this money on internet and telecom and whatever the issue is. If I can show you a way that would save you money without any cost to you to show you this way, would that be something that you would be interested in seeing? And they're going to, of course, say yes. I mean, who says no to that, right? It's not going to cost them anything. And if I am successful in showing that way, and then we would share on a success basis of how we save you that money. Do you have any problem with that? And then they usually say, well, what do you mean by that? I said, well, if I save you $1, you pay me 50 cents. You keep 50 cents, I keep 50 cents. And the reason why I use 50 cents is because it doesn't sound like a lot of money. And they don't really think at that point, first of all, that you're going to find anything. So, like I said, with this one client that I just saved a lot of money on energy, and we're going to get a nice recovery on energy, that's a pretty lucrative, that's a pretty lucrative find. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing for clients, and those are the kinds of things that we're doing, and it all starts with relationships and referrals and building a network of professional people that understand what you do, and you got to be part of groups. If you're not part of groups, and you got to spend a little bit of money. If you don't spend a little money, you're never going to be successful. That's my opinion. You don't have to spend a lot of money. I mean, you can go out and spend quite a bit of money, but I belong to one group that costs $60 every 6 months to be part of this network group, and it's just it's 19 of us in this group, and we're all professionals, and we all refer clients back and forth. So that's what I do.
Well, why don't we open it up to some questions while we got Marc on, and I'll stick around if anybody's got any specific questions. Let's open it up.
Let me just unmute everybody here. If you have a question, feel free to jump in. I'm unmuting your line. Jim, you have a question?
Yes, I do. I'm currently working with a gentleman who is the main contact point for a lot of the independent grocer association stores out on the West Coast. How do we, number one, how do I protect my position with the company here when he wants to know, exactly who I'm doing business with and how it can help him? Because he wants to be part of what I'm doing, obviously, because he can take and make a ton of money at this thing at the same time. That's my first part of the question. The second part is, are you guys going to be, or do you offer any kind of energy-saving products and or services, specifically like phase liners, lighting, things like that, or is that something in the future? Because I have a very good lead on something for that.
Well, I can jump in there. This is Terry. So once you bring a deal in to us, right, we're going to help you work that deal. That's going to be your deal. I mean, we're not going to let anybody else work that deal. So, obviously there's different decision makers in different states that handle different offices. We just have to see what the structure looks like. If there's another, and this is so rare, but if there's another core advisor out there talking to the guy at his uncle in Arizona, and you don't even know that person, and they're kind of in each office runs separately, then that's one thing. That person we wouldn't pull that person out of there.
You keep coming in and out. You're consistently being muffled and unmuffled.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this better?
Yes, much better.
I keep leaning into my computer. I don't know why I start to rock when I start to talk, and I'm putting my face gets closer to the screen and my mic. So I apologize. I'm sitting still. So let me just say, I'll just repeat it. So you're going to work that deal. We're going to protect that deal through you. I mean, obviously we need to see who's who and what. You've got the relationship that trickles into all throughout the state. If they got multiple locations, then that's going to be your account. So you'll be protected.
Right. We're looking at 3 states: Washington, California, and Oregon.
Yeah, as long as there's not another advisor already in there working with, a CEO or a CFO or there could be separate, they might run separately. That's never even happened, so I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Number 2, yes, we already have energy producing products and technologies. We have every imaginable technology, and we continue to add new things, or if we don't have something, whether it's in a different state, and maybe there's a vendor out there that we haven't met yet that we certainly can add, and we're adding all the time. But we have a national LED company that can handle anywhere around the country, site visits, surveys, all that good stuff. And then when we're in there, we can identify other other ways to save them money in terms of energy efficiency.
Okay, so let me ask this question then. If we do bring in a company, I have a company that does energy monitoring and tells you exactly, when your peak points are, and, what equipment is using. I mean, it actually gets down to which piece of equipment is using more energy or using how much energy on a real cost and real-time basis. If I brought someone like that to the table and we decide to utilize their services, do I get an override on that then?
Oh, absolutely.
I'd like to set up a time where we can talk about that.
Absolutely.
Because he's already expressed interest in working with me and also with the group.
Okay. Yeah, I would suggest setting up a time just if you want to do an introduction with myself, and it depending upon how the conversation's going to go. If energy is the focus, then I would bring on one of my project managers on that phone call.
Yeah, this is actually the focus is on energy monitoring and some products for energy reduction.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no selling of energy, and there's no, it doesn't involve LED lights. It's mainly controls, motor controls, refrigerant controls, and actual real-time energy monitoring of individual items, so you can see where what particular piece of equipment is using more money, or more money or more energy.
Yeah, no, I'm very familiar with what you're talking about.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I think Sean Kish has a question.
Someone's going to ask one. I got another one.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Jim, and then I think Sean has.
Yeah, I do have a quick question, Diana. Terry. Mark, what software do you use to track all your projects? Do you use Salesforce or something similar?
So that's interesting. I was using one called Contactually, which I recently stopped using, and I've been playing actually with two different now, because my actual email goes through Google, through the Google system, and so I've been working with Insightly is one, and the other one is called, where is that? Well, it's HubSpot, because with HubSpot I actually have a email tracker that actually tells me whether someone opens my emails or not. So between, I've been playing with both HubSpot and with Insightly as for whether or not, and HubSpot's really pretty cheap because the email tracker is $10 a month, and you get the CRM solution for free. And it's very similar to, believe it or not, what Salesforce uses. It a lot less expensive.
Okay, because I'm starting to generate a lot of leads, and it's a challenge unless you have a really good, strong database, robust, to track those and track your emails. I've been using Pipedrive for a little while. Seemed to like that, but I'll certainly check these two out. The first one was called Insightly.
Yeah, Insightly, INSIGHTLY.
Okay, and the second one?
The other one is, I actually use, let me just give you the right, it's called, well, it's a combination of Sidekick, which is what I subscribe to and pay $10 a month for, which actually tells me whether somebody opens documents and emails that I send them. And then that ties into HubSpot, HUBSPOT, which gives you a CRM and deal tracking software for free.
Nice. Have you actually tried that out?
I'm sorry? Yeah, I'm actually using both of those right now simultaneously to see which one I like better.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Jim, you have another question?
I did. I can't remember exactly what it is. I guess one of the questions I would have is that if we're going to be doing any kind of energy auditing, is there energy auditing software that we can do and go into a facility? Because I'm a certified energy auditor, and but I haven't done it for a while, so I don't have any of the paperwork that we used to, and I'm sure it's probably all on computer by now. So is there any kind of particular questions that you're asking or forms that you're filling out when you're doing an energy audit, or don't we do them?
Yeah, Jim, that'll be something you and I can talk about offline, because we're getting into project management, and that's not what this call is all about.
Okay, cool.
Any other questions?
Questions?
We're thinking the same.
Sorry.
I guess we'll use that ring as the ending of this call. So this call was recorded. Diana will upload it and send out the replay. And I guess that's it for tonight. I want to thank Marc for coming on and sharing his thoughts. And we'll definitely have him on at least once a month. But if you guys got calls, if you what's nice. We're all about the discovery meeting. We're trying to find the needs of a client, and a lot of these clients have different hot buttons. So if you get into a company that's got $50 million in revenue, they're bigger outfits, there's tremendous need for all of our services and all of our subject matter experts to dig in. And you're going to you may need a little help getting it rolling. So that's what we want to discuss. Anyways. So that's it for now, guys. Hopefully you have a good night, and we'll talk to you next Monday. Diane, who's coming on for next Monday?
I'm going to be sending out the information on Friday, so I don't have it right in front of me right now. So.
Okay, I know we have another speaker coming on Monday, so make sure you get on there. It'll be some good content. So, okay, guys, that's it. Have a great night. We'll talk to everybody real soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.